The poor waitress brought her triplet daughters to work. The widowed millionaire's gesture moved everyone. The overhead lights in the back room of Miller's family restaurant had been dying for weeks. Nobody bothered fixing them anymore. They buzzed and flickered like tired candles, casting uneven shadows across the stacks of flour bags and the industrial-sized cans of tomato sauce that lined the metal shelves. It was nearly 9 at night, and the dinner rush had finally thinned to a trickle of stragglers nursing coffee and picking at leftover fries. Rachel Miller stood near the sink, scrubbing at a stubborn grease stain on her apron that wasn't going anywhere. Her red uniform, 2 sizes too big because it was handed down from someone who'd quit last month, hung loose on her thin frame. The name tag pinned crookedly to her chest read Rachel in faded letters. Beneath it, 3 safety pins held together a tear near the hem. Her sneakers, the ones with the sole peeling away from the left toe, squeaked faintly against the tile every time she shifted her weight. She was 25, but tonight she felt about 100 behind her, tucked into the narrow space between the industrial mop bucket and the broom closet. 3 little girls sat huddled together on a flattened cardboard box. Chloe, Avery, and Grace, 7 years old, identical down to the dimples in their cheeks and the stubborn cowlicks that refused to stay down no matter how much water Rachel used. They wore mismatched clothes from the donation bin at church, and their hair was pulled back with bright plastic clips shaped like butterflies, $2 for a pack of 12 at the dollar store. The clips were crooked. Rachel had done their hair in the car, one hand on the wheel, the other smoothing down flyaways at red lights. Grace was crying, not the loud, theatrical kind of crying that kids do when they want something. This was the tired kind, the kind that came from being 7 years old and spending 3 hours sitting on a cardboard box in the back of a restaurant because your mom didn't have anywhere else to put you. She, baby, I know, Rachel whispered, crouching down and brushing a strand of hair away from Grace's damp face. I know you're tired, just a little longer, okay? Mama's almost done. It was a lie. She had at least 2 more hours. Chloe, the oldest by 4 minutes, wrapped her arms around Grace and shot Rachel a look that was far too knowing for a 7-year-old. It's okay, Mama, we're okay. Rachel's chest tightened. She pressed a quick kiss to Chloe's forehead and stood back up, blinking hard against the sting in her eyes. Crying wasn't going to pay the electric bill. The daycare had closed. No warning, no apology, just a handwritten sign taped to the door that morning when Rachel had pulled up with the girls. Closed until further notice. She'd called 4 other places, 2 didn't answer. 1 laughed when she asked about their rates. The 4th told her they had a 6-month waiting list. So here they were. She'd tried to keep them quiet, tried to keep them hidden, brought coloring books and crackers in Ziploc bags. Told them it was an adventure, told them to be brave, and they had been. God, they had been so brave, but kids can only be brave for so long. The door to the kitchen swung open with a bang and Rachel's stomach dropped. Carolyn Frost was the kind of manager who wore her bitterness like a badge. 43, divorced twice, with a permanent scowl etched into the lines around her mouth. She ran the restaurant like a dictator, tight-fisted with praise, loose with criticism, and quick to remind everyone that they were replaceable. Her eyes swept the back room and landed on the 3 little girls like a hawk spotting prey. What? Carolyn said slowly, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Is this? Rachel stepped forward, hands raised slightly, like she was approaching a wild animal. Carolyn, I can explain. You brought your kids to work. Carolyn's voice pitched higher. Incredulous, are you out of your mind? The daycare closed. I didn't have anyone. That is not my problem. Rachel, Carolyn crossed her arms, her mouth twisting into something cruel. You know the rules. No unauthorized persons in the kitchen, especially not children. They're not in the kitchen, Rachel said quickly. They're in the back room. They're not bothering anyone. They're bothering me. Carolyn took a step closer, lowering her voice just enough that it felt more dangerous. You think you can just waltz in here with 3 crying kids and expect me to look the other way? What if a health inspector walked in? What if a customer saw this? Rachel's pulse hammered in her ears. Please, I'll keep them quiet. I'll work faster. I'll stay late. You'll take them home right now. The words landed like a punch. Carolyn, please. Rachel hated the way her voice cracked. I need this shift. I need the money. I can't. Then you should have thought of that before you decided to turn my restaurant into a daycare center. Carolyn turned on her heel, her voice rising loud enough for the whole kitchen to hear. Everyone, come here. You need to see this. Rachel's face burned. 2 cooks and a dishwasher drifted over, curiosity tugging them toward the drama. One of them, Miguel, who'd always been kind to her, looked away, ashamed. "This," Carolyn announced, gesturing toward the three little girls like they were evidence in a crime scene, "is what happens when people don't take their job seriously." Chloe's face crumpled. Avery reached for Rachel's hand. Grace buried her face in her sister's shoulder, her small body shaking. Rachel wanted to scream. She wanted to grab Carolyn by the collar and shake her until she remembered what it felt like to be human, but she didn't, because she couldn't afford to lose this job. And then the door to the dining room opened. The man who stepped through moved like someone who didn't need to announce himself. The room just made space. Tall, mid-30s, dark suit that probably cost more than Rachel made in 2 months. His tie was loosened, his sleeves rolled up to his forearms, and there was a kind of exhaustion in his eyes that Rachel recognized immediately. Not the tired that comes from working too hard, the kind that comes from carrying weight nobody else can see. James Whitaker, she'd seen him before. Regulars knew his name, knew he owned some big tech company, knew he always ordered the same thing and tipped well. But she'd never spoken to him. People like him didn't really see people like her, except tonight, he was looking right at her. No, he was looking at the girls. His gaze moved from Carolyn's smug expression to Rachel's trembling hands to the three little faces peeking out from behind the mop bucket, and something in his expression shifted. Softened, he walked forward, slowly, and crouched down until he was at eye level with the girls. "Hey there," he said quietly. Grace peeked out, her cheeks still wet. James shrugged off his suit jacket, expensive charcoal gray, probably tailored, and laid it carefully on the cold tile floor in front of them. "Here, this'll be more comfortable than cardboard." Rachel's breath caught. He stood, walked to the counter, poured 3 small glasses of water from the pitcher, and brought them back one by one, setting them down gently within reach. "Can someone bring me 3 bowls of soup?" he called over his shoulder, his tone casual but firm. "Chicken noodle, if you've got it. And some crackers." He glanced at Carolyn, his expression unreadable. "Put it on my tab." The kitchen had gone completely silent. Carolyn's mouth opened, then closed. For once, she didn't have anything to say. James turned back to the girls, his voice soft. "You like chicken noodle?" Chloe nodded slowly. Avery whispered, "Yes, sir." "Good. It's the best thing on the menu." He smiled, small, but real, and stood on the other side of the glass partition that separated the private dining room from the main floor. 3 boys sat in a booth, their hands folded on the table in front of them. 8 years old, pale, unnaturally still, they'd been watching, and now, for the first time in what felt like forever, one of them, Liam, the smallest, let out a sound that didn't belong to grief, a laugh, short, startled, but undeniably real. James froze, his hand tightened on the back of a chair, his knuckles going white. He turned slowly toward the sound, and Rachel saw something break open in his face, something fragile and desperate and full of hope. He didn't say anything, he just stood there, staring at his son like he'd just witnessed a miracle. And maybe he had. The laugh didn't last long. James watched as Liam's face went slack again, the brief spark fading like someone had flipped a switch. His son's eyes drifted back to the table, to the folded napkin he'd been creasing and recreasing for the past 20 minutes. Ethan and Noah sat on either side of him. Mirror images of stillness, 3 boys who looked like they'd forgotten how to be children. James stood frozen in the doorway between the dining room and the kitchen, his hand still gripping the back of the chair. His throat felt tight. That sound, that single, startled burst of laughter had been the first real noise his son had made in 8 months. Not counting the polite yes sirs and no thank yous that Amanda had drilled into them. 8 months since the funeral. 8 months since his boys had turned into ghosts. He forced himself to move, crossing back to their booth with steps that felt heavier than they should. "You guys doing okay?" 3 heads nodded in unison. "Synchronized, rehearsed, you want dessert?" "They've got pie." "No, thank you, Father," Ethan said. His voice was flat, colorless. Father, not Dad, not Daddy. Amanda had corrected that early on, said it was more appropriate, more respectful. James had been too tired to argue. He slid into the booth across from them. Studying their faces, Ethan had dark circles under his eyes that shouldn't belong to an 8-year-old. Noah's cheeks had hollowed out, his collarbones visible above the collar of his button-down shirt. Liam kept his hands folded, his gaze fixed somewhere past James's shoulder. They looked like tiny, broken soldiers. "Let's get you guys home," James said quietly. The drive back to the house was silent except for the hum of the engine. James glanced in the rearview mirror twice. The boys sat in the back seat, hands folded, staring out their respective windows, not fidgeting, not talking, not being. When had that happened? When had he stopped knowing how to reach them? The truth was, he'd stopped trying. Somewhere between the hospital visits and the funeral arrangements and the endless parade of casseroles from neighbors who didn't know what else to do, he'd let someone else take over, someone organized. Someone who promised structure and stability and routine. Amanda Price. She'd come recommended by Eleanor Hartman, a colleague's wife who swore Amanda was a godsend. She specializes in bereaved families, Eleanor had said. Pressing a business card into James's hand at the wake, she'd take care of everything, and she had. Within a week of being hired, Amanda had reorganized the entire house. Toys were sorted and stored in labeled bins. Meals were planned and prepared on a strict schedule. Bedtimes were non-negotiable. The boys' daily routines were printed out and laminated, stuck to the refrigerator with alphabet magnets. At first, James had been grateful. The house had felt like it was drowning in chaos, and Amanda had thrown him a lifeline. She was calm when he was falling apart. She was certain when he had no idea what to do next. She smiled and nodded and told him, "Children need structure, Mr. Whitaker. Especially now. Give them time, give them consistency." So he had 6 months later. The house was spotless. The schedules were followed to the minute. The boys were polite, obedient, and utterly, heartbreakingly silent. James pulled into the circular driveway, the motion sensor lights flooding the front of the house in cold white. The estate was massive, 10,000 square feet of glass and steel and minimalist architecture that his late wife, Catherine, had loved. Now it felt like a mausoleum. Amanda was waiting at the door before he even turned off the engine. She always was. "Good evening, Mr. Whitaker." Her voice was smooth. Professional. She wore her usual uniform black slacks, white blouse, hair pulled back in a neat bun. Not a strand out of place. "The boys are 15 minutes past their bedtime, I know. We got held up. Routine is important," she said gently, but there was steel underneath. She crouched down as the boys filed past her into the house. "Bath time, gentlemen, quickly now." They obeyed without a word. James watched them disappear up the stairs, a tight knot forming in his chest. "Amanda, I'll get them settled," she said, already moving. "You have an early meeting tomorrow. I left your briefing notes on your desk, right?" "Thanks." She paused at the base of the stairs, turning back with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You look exhausted, Mr. Whitaker. You should rest." "Yeah, I will," but he didn't. Instead, James poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey and stood in the living room, staring at the wall of family photos Catherine had insisted on hanging. There she was, blonde, laughing, radiant. The boys were younger in most of the pictures, their faces bright and open. Ethan grinning with a missing front tooth, Noah covered in finger paint, Liam mid-leap off the couch, arms spread like he was flying. When had they stopped looking like that? Upstairs, he could hear the sounds of the bedtime routine. Water running. Amanda's voice, low and steady, giving instructions. The boys, silent. James drained the whiskey and set the glass down harder than he meant to. The sound echoed through the empty room. He climbed the stairs slowly, pausing outside the boys' bedroom. The door was cracked open through the gap. He could see Amanda tucking Liam into bed, smoothing the covers with practiced efficiency. She placed a small cup on the nightstand, some kind of supplement drink she'd started giving them a few months ago. For their immune systems, she'd explained. "Grief weakens the body." James had nodded and signed off on it. He signed off on everything these days. "Drink up, sweetheart," Amanda said softly. Pressing the cup into Liam's hands, Liam drank without protest. His eyelids were already drooping. "Good boy." Amanda set the empty cup aside and adjusted his pillow. "Sleep well." Ethan and Noah were already in their beds. Faces slack, breathing even, asleep or something close to it. Amanda noticed James in the doorway and stepped out, pulling the door shut behind her. "They're exhausted." "It was a long day. They're always exhausted," James said before he could stop himself. Amanda's expression didn't change. "Healing takes time, Mr. Whitaker. Children process grief differently than adults. They need rest, they need quiet, they need to be kids," James said, his voice sharper than he intended. "With respect," Amanda said, her tone still measured. "They need stability. Structure, not disruption." James opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. What was he going to say? That he didn't know what his own children needed anymore. that he'd handed over every parenting decision to a woman he barely knew because he was too broken to do it himself. "You're doing a great job," Amanda said. Softer now, almost gentle, but you have to trust the process. "This is normal." "Normal," James repeated. "Yes." She folded her hands in front of her. "I've worked with dozens of families in similar situations. The grief, the silence, it's all part of the journey. They'll come back to you. But only if you're patient." James nodded slowly. Even though something in his gut twisted, Amanda smiled. "Get some rest, Mr. Whitaker. Tomorrow is a new day." She disappeared down the hallway, her footsteps soundless on the plush carpet. James stood there for a long moment, staring at the closed door to his son's room. Then he turned and walked to his own bedroom at the far end of the hall, the one he hadn't shared with anyone in 8 months. He didn't sleep. Instead, he lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying that single sound over and over in his mind. Liam's laugh, short, startled, real. It hadn't come from quiet. It hadn't come from routine. It had come from watching 3 little girls in mismatched clothes and crooked butterfly clips, huddled on a cardboard box while their mother tried to hold the world together with her bare hands. And for the first time in a very long time, James Whitaker wondered if he'd been listening to the wrong person. Rachel didn't expect to see the inside of James Whitaker's house, ever. So when her phone rang at 7 in the morning, 2 days after the restaurant incident, an unfamiliar number flashed across the cracked screen. She almost didn't answer. "Hello, Miss Miller." The voice was female, crisp, professional. "This is Amanda Price, household manager for the Whitaker estate, Mr. Whitaker is hosting a small corporate luncheon this afternoon. Our usual catering staff had a last-minute cancellation. Your manager provided your contact information as someone reliable for service work." Rachel's stomach dropped. Carolyn, of course. Carolyn would throw her name out there, probably hoping she'd screw up in front of rich people. Yes, what time?" 11 o'clock, the address is 1847 Riverside Drive. Please use the service entrance, uniform required." The line went dead before Rachel could respond. She stood in her tiny kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, staring at the peeling linoleum. The girls were eating cereal at the card table that served as their dining room. Chloe looked up, a milk mustache on her upper lip. "Who was that, Mama?" "Work, baby." Rachel forced a smile. "I need you guys to be extra good at Mrs. Chun's today." Okay, Mrs. Chun was their downstairs neighbor, 72, half-deaf, but willing to watch the girls for $20 and a promise that Rachel would help her with grocery shopping later. It wasn't ideal, but it was what Rachel had by 10:30. Rachel was standing at the service entrance of a house that looked like it belonged in a magazine. All glass and sharp angles, and a lawn so perfect it didn't look real. Her uniform was freshly washed, but still carried a faint smell of fryer grease that no amount of detergent could kill. She rang the bell. Amanda Price answered within seconds. She was younger than Rachel expected, late 20s, maybe 30, with dark hair pulled into a severe bun and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Miss Miller, right on time." Amanda stepped aside. "Follow me." The inside of the house was even more intimidating than the outside. Everything was white or gray or stainless steel. The floors were polished concrete. There wasn't a single thing out of place. No toys, no mess, no sign that children lived here at all. "The luncheon is in the west dining room," Amanda said, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. 12 guests, service is straightforward: appetizers at 11:30, entrees at noon, dessert at 1. You'll clear between courses. Do not engage in conversation unless directly addressed. "Understood, yes ma'am." Amanda's eyes flicked over Rachel's uniform. Lingering on a small stain near the collar, there's a lint roller in the pantry. "Use it." Rachel bits the inside of her cheek. "Yes, ma'am." The next 2 hours passed in a blur of silver trays and polite smiles, and making herself as invisible as possible. The guests, all men in expensive suits, barely looked at her. She was furniture, a pair of hands that refilled water glasses and cleared plates. James Whitaker sat at the head of the table, his expression unreadable if he recognized her. He didn't show it. By 12:40, the entrees were cleared, and Rachel was in the kitchen, arranging dessert plates, when she heard a crash, then a child's voice, high and distressed. Amanda's heels clicked rapidly across the floor. "Ethan, what did I tell you about running in the house?" Rachel's hand stilled on the plates. "I'm sorry, Miss Amanda. I didn't mean to. It doesn't matter what you meant. Look at this mess." Rachel set down the plate and moved toward the doorway, staying just out of sight. Through the crack, she could see a long hallway. A shattered glass vase lay on the floor. Water pooling across the concrete, and standing in the middle of it, looking small and terrified, were 3 boys. The same 3 boys from the restaurant. They were pale, too pale, and they stood perfectly still, hands at their sides like they were waiting for punishment. Amanda sighed. "Go to the playroom. All of you." Now they turned without a word and disappeared down the hallway. Amanda crouched down, picking up pieces of broken glass with sharp, irritated movements. She didn't look up when James appeared in the doorway. "Everything all right? Fine," Amanda said curtly. "Just a minor accident. The boys are overstimulated. I've sent them to calm down." James frowned. "Overstimulated from what?" "They've been in the playroom all morning." "Exactly. Too much unstructured time." Amanda stood, brushing off her hands. "They need routine, Mr. Whitaker. Consistency. I've told you this." James didn't respond. He just looked down the hallway where his sons had disappeared, his jaw tight. Amanda's expression softened. "I know you want to help them, but sometimes the best thing you can do is trust the process. They're fragile right now. They need calm. They need quiet." "Right?" James said quietly. "Quiet." Amanda returned to the kitchen, breezing past Rachel like she wasn't there. "Dessert in 5 minutes. Don't keep the guests waiting." Rachel nodded. But her mind was somewhere else. The luncheon ended just after 1. The guests filtered out, shaking James's hand and making vague promises about follow-up meetings. Amanda supervised the cleanup with military precision, directing Rachel to pack leftovers and wipe down surfaces. "The car service will take you back," Amanda said, not looking up from her tablet. "Mr. Whitaker insists." "That's not necessary." It wasn't a question. Amanda's tone left no room for argument. Rachel was about to respond when a sound made her stop. Shouting. No, not shouting. Crying. It was coming from somewhere deeper in the house. Amanda's head snapped up, her expression flickering with something Rachel couldn't quite name. Annoyance. Alarm. "Wait here," Amanda said sharply, already moving, but Rachel didn't wait. She followed the sound down the hallway, past the pristine living room and the spotless home office, until she reached a door that was slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see a large room filled with toys, shelves of books, bins of building blocks, a wooden train set that looked like it had never been touched, and in the middle of it, 3 boys sat on the floor, crying, not loud, dramatic crying, quiet, exhausted crying, the kind that came from having nothing left. Rachel's heart broke. Amanda appeared in the doorway, blocking Rachel's view. "I said wait in the kitchen. They're upset, and I will handle it." Amanda's voice was steel. "This is not your concern." But before Amanda could close the door, one of the boys, Liam, the smallest one, looked up. His eyes met Rachel's. Red-rimmed, wet, desperate. Rachel didn't think, she just moved. She slipped past Amanda, ignoring the sharp intake of breath behind her, and crouched down in front of the boys. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, it's okay." They stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. Rachel reached into her apron pocket and pulled out the only thing she had, a couple of pin caps from the restaurant. Bright blue plastic, nothing special. "You guys ever seen a spaceship?" Silence. Rachel held up the pin caps, making engine noises under her breath. "Vroom. See? They're flying." "Where do you think they're going?" Ethan blinked. "Space, exactly, but they need a captain." "You think you could help?" Slowly, so slowly, Ethan reached out and took one of the caps. Noah took the other. Liam watched, his tears slowing. Rachel made another engine noise, louder this time, and launched an invisible rocket across the room. "Okay, your turn. Where's it going?" "The moon," Ethan whispered. "Good choice. Moon's got low gravity, easy landing for beginners." And then impossibly, Ethan smiled. It was small, tentative, but real. Noah laughed. Just a breath of sound, but it was there. Liam's face lit up and he scrambled forward, grabbing a toy car from the shelf. "This one's the rescue ship for the next 10 minutes. Rachel sat on the floor of that pristine playroom and helped 3 grieving boys build an imaginary space station, out of pin caps and toy cars and whatever else they could find. They talked over each other, voices rising, laughter bubbling up like it had been trapped underwater for months. And standing in the hallway, watching through the cracked door, James Whitaker felt something inside him shatter and rebuild all at once. His sons were laughing, actually laughing. He pressed a hand over his mouth. His vision blurring, he couldn't remember the last time he'd heard that sound. Couldn't remember the last time they'd looked like kids. Amanda appeared at his elbow, her voice low and tight. "Mr. Whitaker, this is highly inappropriate. She's staff. She shouldn't be. She's helping them," James said hoarsely. "She's disrupting their routine." They're laughing. "Amanda, temporary excitement isn't healing." Amanda's tone sharpened. You hired me because I know how to handle bereaved children. This kind of overstimulation will set them back. Trust me. James looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time. He didn't like what he saw, I think, he said slowly. I'd like to hear them laugh a little longer. Amanda's jaw tightened. But she nodded, stepping back inside the playroom. Rachel helped Liam launch his rescue ship toward the moon. The boys cheered, and somewhere deep in the house, in a locked cabinet in Amanda's private quarters, 3 small bottles of clear liquid sat waiting for bedtime. Rachel knew something was wrong the moment she walked into the restaurant the next morning. Carolyn was smiling, not the tight, brittle smile she usually wore when she was about to chew someone out. This was different, satisfied, like a cat that had just cornered a mouse. Rachel, Carolyn called out sweetly, too sweetly, can I see you in my office? Rachel's stomach clenched. She glanced at Miguel, who was prepping vegetables at the counter. He wouldn't meet her eyes. Sure, Rachel said. Keeping her voice steady, Carolyn's office was a cramped room in the back. Barely bigger than a closet. It smelled like stale coffee and disappointment. Carolyn gestured to the single chair across from her desk. Sit. Rachel sat. Carolyn leaned back, fingers steepled like she was about to deliver a sermon. I've been doing some inventory checks, standard procedure, and I found something. Interesting. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. Rachel's eyes scanned the page. It was a printout from the restaurant's inventory system. Highlighted in yellow, 6 sterling silver salad forks. Missing. I don't understand, Rachel said slowly. Don't you? Carolyn's smile widened. These went missing 3 days ago. The same shift you worked, I didn't take any forks, really, because the cameras show you handling the silverware that night. Alone in the back, Rachel's pulse hammered. I was doing my job. I always polish the silverware before closing, and then you put them back. Except 6 of them never made it back to the drawer. Carolyn leaned forward. I could call the police, press charges, but I'm willing to be generous if you resign quietly. I'll let this go. The air left Rachel's lungs. I didn't steal anything. The cameras tell a different story. Then show me the footage. Carolyn's smile didn't waver. I don't think that's necessary. Do you? Rachel understood. Then there was no footage. There were no missing forks, or if there were, Carolyn had made them disappear herself. This wasn't about theft. This was about getting rid of her. Why are you doing this? Rachel's voice cracked despite herself. Because, Carolyn said, her tone turning cold. You embarrassed me in front of a customer, in front of my staff. You brought your children into my kitchen and made me look like the villain. And then you had the nerve to get special treatment from some rich guy who felt sorry for you. I needed that job. Should have thought about that before you decided rules didn't apply to you. Carolyn slid a second paper across the desk. A resignation letter, pre-written. Sign it, or I call the cops. Rachel's hands trembled. She wanted to scream. She wanted to flip the desk over and tell Carolyn exactly what she thought of her. But she couldn't. Because if the police got involved, even if the charges were bullshit, Child Protective Services would show up at her door again. And next time, they might not leave the girls with her, she signed. Carolyn took the paper, barely glancing at Rachel's shaky signature. Clear out your locker. You've got 10 minutes. Rachel stood on numb legs and walked out. Miguel was waiting by the back door. He pressed something into her hand. 220s. Crumpled and warm, it's all I got on me, he said quietly. I'm sorry, Rat. She couldn't speak. She just nodded and left. The apartment felt smaller when she got home. The girls were at Mrs. Chun's for another hour, which meant Rachel had 60 minutes to fall apart before she had to paste on a smile and pretend everything was fine. She sat on the edge of the bed, really just a mattress on the floor, and stared at the wall. No job, $40 in her pocket, rent due in 8 days. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Amanda Price. Mr. Whitaker would like to formally thank you for your service yesterday. A check has been sent to your address. Rachel stared at the message. Her first instinct was relief money. Even a little would help, but her second instinct was darker. Amanda hadn't mentioned the playroom, hadn't acknowledged what happened with the boys. The text was polite, transactional, distant. It felt like a door closing. Rachel deleted the message and buried her face in her hands. 3 days later, the check arrived. $500. More than Rachel had expected. Less than she needed. She cashed it immediately and paid the rent. That left $90 for groceries, gas, and everything else. She started applying for jobs, diners, retail stores, cleaning services. Anything, but every application asked for references. And Caroline's name was the only one she had. She didn't put it down on the 4th day. A woman from Child Protective Services showed up at her door. Rachel's blood turned to ice. Ms. Miller. The woman was in her 50s, gray hair, tired eyes. She held a clipboard. I'm Jana Ruiz. We received a report about what concerns about the welfare of your children. May I come in? Rachel wanted to say no, wanted to slam the door and pretend this wasn't happening. But she stepped aside because refusing would only make things worse. Janet walked through the tiny apartment slowly, taking notes. She opened the fridge, mostly empty except for a half-gallon of milk and some eggs. She checked the girls' bedroom, 3 sleeping bags on the floor, clothes folded neatly in a cardboard box. Where are the children now? Downstairs with a neighbor. Mrs. Chun, she watches them sometimes. Is she licensed? She's a neighbor, a friend. Janet made another note. The report claims the children were left unsupervised at your workplace. Is that true? Rachel's throat tightened. I brought them with me one time because the daycare closed and I had no other option. And you brought them to a restaurant kitchen. I kept them in the back room. They weren't near any hazards. Ms. Miller, Janet said, her voice not unkind. I understand you're in a difficult situation, but your daughter's safety has to come first. It does. It always does. Janet sighed. I'm not removing them today, but I need to schedule a follow-up visit. And I need you to provide proof of stable employment and childcare within the next 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Rachel nodded because there was nothing else to do. Janet left her a stack of pamphlets, resources for single mothers, food banks, government assistance programs. Rachel stared at them after she left, her vision blurring. She'd been so careful, and it still wasn't enough. The next blow came 2 days later. Rachel was sorting through her mail, mostly bills, when she found an envelope with no return address. Inside was a single piece of paper, a printout from a medical website, instructions for administering children's cough syrup. Someone had highlighted a section in red: overdose symptoms, drowsiness, confusion, slow breathing. Beneath it, in handwritten block letters, found in your daughter's backpack. Rachel's hands shook. She turned the envelope over. No postmark, hand-delivered. She tore through the apartment, checking the girls' school bags. Nothing. No medicine. No syrup. Nothing. This was a setup. She thought about the missing forks, the CPS visit. Now this, someone was trying to destroy her. And she had a pretty good idea who, that night, after the girls were asleep. Rachel sat at the kitchen table with a notebook and a pen. She started writing down everything. Dates, times, names, the day Carolyn accused her of theft. The anonymous CPS report, the fake evidence planted in her bag. She didn't have proof yet, but she was going to find it. Because whoever was doing this had made one mistake. They'd underestimated how far a mother would go to protect her children. The next morning, Rachel took the girls to the library. While they sat in the kids section reading picture books, Rachel used the public computer to search for answers. She typed in Amanda Price household manager. Nothing. She tried Whitaker estate staff. Still nothing. Then she tried child sedation nanny. The search results made her stomach turn. Article after article about caregivers using over-the-counter sleep aids to keep children manageable. Some were caught. Most weren't. Rachel's mind flashed back to the playroom. The way those boys had been so still, so quiet, too quiet. She thought about Liam's laugh, sharp and sudden, like he'd surprised himself. She thought about the way Amanda had looked at her in that hallway. Not angry, threatened. Rachel opened a new tab and started looking up symptoms of prolonged sedative use in children. Drowsiness, lethargy, emotional numbness, delayed speech. Her breath caught. She printed the articles, folded them carefully, and tucked them into her purse. She didn't know what she was going to do with them yet, but she knew one thing. If someone was coming for her, she wasn't going down without a fight. And if those boys were in danger, she was going to do something about it, even if it meant risking everything she had left. Rachel got the call on a Tuesday. Miss Miller, the voice was male, professional. This is David Park from Whitaker Industries. We're looking for event staff for a corporate dinner next Friday. Your name came highly recommended. Rachel frowned. Recommended by who? Mr. Whitaker personally requested you. Her heart stuttered. Oh, yes, I'm available. Excellent, 6 o'clock, same address as before. Business casual serving attire. Pay is $30 an hour, plus tips, $30 an hour. Rachel did the math quickly. A 4-hour shift would be more than she'd made in 2 days at the restaurant. I'll be there. She hung up and stared at her phone. Mind racing. Why would James Whitaker request her specifically? And how did he even know she'd been fired? The answer came 3 days later. When she arrived at the Whitaker estate, Amanda met her at the service entrance, her expression glacial. Miss Miller, her voice could have cut glass. Mr. Whitaker is under the impression that you performed adequately last time. I expect you to maintain the same level of professionalism tonight. The guests are high profile. Any misstep reflects on this household. Understood. Amanda's eyes lingered on Rachel's face, searching for something. The children will not be present this evening. They're on a strict schedule. I trust you won't find any reason to deviate from your assigned duties. It wasn't a question. It was a warning, of course, Rachel said evenly. The dinner went smoothly. 20 guests, all polished smiles and expensive watches. Rachel moved between them like a shadow. Refilling wine glasses and clearing plates, James sat at the head of the table, laughing at jokes that didn't reach his eyes. He didn't look at her once by 9 o'clock. The guests had moved to the terrace for cigars and whiskey. Rachel was in the kitchen, scraping plates. When she heard it, a thump. Then another. She froze, listening. The sounds were coming from upstairs. Rhythmic, deliberate. She glanced toward the terrace. Amanda was out there, schmoozing with the guests. The other server, a college kid named Brent, was loading the dishwasher with headphones in. Rachel wiped her hands on her apron and slipped into the hallway. The house was quieter here, away from the party. Her footsteps were soft on the carpeted stairs. She followed the sound to the second floor, down a long hallway lined with black and white photos of the boys at various ages. The thumping stopped. Rachel paused outside a door. A small wooden sign hung at eye level. Playroom, she knocked softly. Hello, silence. She opened the door. The playroom looked different at night. The overhead lights were off, replaced by a small nightlight shaped like a crescent moon. Toys sat in perfect rows on the shelves, untouched, and in the center of the room 3 boys sat cross-legged on the floor. They weren't playing, they were drawing. Ethan looked up first, his eyes widening. You're the spaceship lady. Rachel's chest tightened. Hi guys, what are you doing up? Isn't it past bedtime? We can't sleep, Noah said quietly. Bad dreams. Liam added. Rachel stepped inside, crouching down to their level. Yeah, what kind of bad dreams? They exchanged glances. About Mom, Ethan said finally. Rachel's throat ached. I'm sorry, that must be really hard. Miss Amanda says we're not supposed to talk about her, Noah whispered. She says it makes us sad. Well, Rachel said carefully, sometimes talking about people we miss makes us feel better. Even if it's sad, Liam held up a piece of paper. I drew this. Rachel took it gently. It was a crayon drawing stick, figures in bright colors. A woman with yellow hair, 3 boys holding hands, and off to the side, a man standing alone. That's beautiful, Rachel said softly. Is that your mom? Liam nodded. She used to read us stories and make funny voices. She made the best pancakes, Ethan added. Chocolate chip with whipped cream. Noah smiled faintly. Dad tried to make them once. He burned them, yeah, Rachel grinned. My pancakes are pretty bad too. I always forget the baking powder and they come out flat as paper. The boys giggled. Rachel's eyes drifted to the other drawings scattered across the floor. Most were typical kid-stuffed dinosaurs, rockets, trees, but one caught her attention. It was drawn in darker colors, a table, 3 cups, and above each cup, small circles, droplets. What's this one? Rachel asked, picking it up. Noah's smile faded. That's our vitamins. Miss Amanda gives them to us before bed, Ethan said. She says they help us sleep better. Rachel's pulse quickened. What do they taste like? Weird, Liam said, scrunching his nose. Kinda bitter. But Miss Amanda says we have to drink all of it or we'll get sick. Rachel stared at the drawing. 3 cups, droplets. Do you feel sick after you drink them? She asked. Keeping her voice casual, sleepy, Noah said, really sleepy. Like we can't keep our eyes open and sometimes dizzy, Ethan added. Miss Amanda says that's normal, that our bodies are healing. Rachel's hands trembled. She set the drawing down carefully. Can I see the cups? The ones she uses? They're in Miss Amanda's room, Liam said. We're not allowed in there. Right. Of course. Rachel forced a smile. You guys are really good artists. You know that? They beamed. Can I keep this one? Rachel asked, holding up the drawing of the cups. I think it's really cool. Liam hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Rachel folded it carefully and slipped it into her apron pocket. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Quick, Rachel whispered. Back in bed. Pretend you're asleep. The boys scrambled to their feet and dove under their blankets in the adjoining bedroom. Rachel stood, smoothing her apron, just as Amanda appeared in the doorway. Her eyes were cold. What are you doing up here? I heard a noise, Rachel said evenly. I wanted to make sure everything was okay. Amanda's gaze flicked to the playroom, then back to Rachel. The children are asleep as they should be. Your duties are downstairs, of course. I was just heading back. Amanda didn't move. I don't recall giving you permission to wander the house. I wasn't wandering, I was checking on a noise. And now you've checked. Amanda's smile was razor thin. Don't let it happen again. Rachel nodded and walked past her. Heart hammering, she made it halfway down the stairs before Amanda's voice stopped her. Ms. Miller. Rachel turned. Amanda stood at the top of the stairs, backlit by the hallway light. Mr. Whitaker values discretion. I trust you understand what that means. I do. Good. Amanda's smile widened, but her eyes stayed dead. We wouldn't want any misunderstandings. Rachel held her gaze for a beat, then continued down the stairs. She didn't go straight home after the dinner ended. Instead, she drove to the 24-hour pharmacy on Main Street and parked under a streetlight. She pulled out the drawing and smoothed it on her lap. 3 cups, droplets, vitamins. Rachel grabbed her phone and started searching. Children's sleep supplements, melatonin overdose symptoms, sedatives disguised as vitamins. The articles made her stomach churn. Over-the-counter sleep aids, antihistamines, even prescription sedatives, crushed and dissolved in juice. All of them caused the same symptoms: drowsiness, lethargy, emotional flatness. All of them were nearly impossible to detect without a blood test. Rachel opened her photos and scrolled back to the pictures she'd taken during her first visit to the estate. She'd been documenting everything: rooms, layouts, anything that might be useful. There, a shot of the kitchen counter in the background. Barely visible was a shelf with several small bottles. Rachel zoomed in. The labels were blurry, but one bottle stood out. Dark glass, no label. She took a screenshot and saved it. Then she opened a new search. Amanda Price caregiver background, nothing. Amanda Price nanny, still nothing. Amanda Price household staff. The search returned a single hit, a comment on a parenting forum from 2 years ago. Anyone else work with Amanda Price? She was our nanny for 6 months, very strict. The kids seemed scared of her. We let her go after we found out she was giving our son Benadryl without asking. She said it was for allergies, but he didn't have allergies. Rachel's blood ran cold. She screenshotted the comment, then kept digging. Another forum, another parent. Amanda Price is not who she says she is. She forged references. Do not hire her. Rachel sat back, her hands shaking. She thought about those 3 little boys, lying in their beds, waiting for their nightly vitamins. She thought about their blank stares and their 2 quiet voices, and the way they'd laughed in the playroom like they'd forgotten how. And she thought about Amanda's smile. Cold, controlled, dangerous. Rachel pulled out a notebook and started writing. She wrote down everything she'd seen, everything she'd heard, every suspicion, every detail. She didn't know what she was going to do with it yet, but she knew she couldn't do nothing. Rachel was folding laundry in her apartment when the knock came. Sharp, official, the kind of knock that makes your stomach drop before you even open the door. She checked the peephole. 2 police officers, a woman in a blazer with a county ID badge, and behind them, arms crossed, Carolyn. Rachel's knees went weak. She opened the door. Can I help you? The older officer, gray hair, weathered face, pulled out a badge. Ms. Rachel Miller. Yes, I'm Officer Dawson. This is Officer Chun. We need to ask you some questions about what? The woman in the blazer stepped forward. I'm Lisa Brennan, Child Protective Services. We've received a credible report that you've been administering sedatives to your children. The world tilted. What? No, that's insane. We have evidence, Dawson said. May we come in? Rachel's mouth went dry. She wanted to say no. Wanted to slam the door and call a lawyer she couldn't afford. But refusing would only make it worse. She stepped aside. The officers moved through her tiny apartment like they owned it. Brennan went straight for the girls' bedroom. Chloe, Avery, and Grace were sitting on the floor, playing with a set of plastic dinosaurs from the thrift store. They looked up, eyes wide. Mama. Chloe's voice was small. It's okay, baby, Rachel said, her voice cracking. Just stay there. Brennan crouched down, her expression softening. Hi, girls. I'm Lisa. I just need to ask you a few questions. Okay. The girls nodded, confused. Has your mom ever given you medicine to help you sleep? Sometimes, Avery said, when we're sick. What kind of medicine? The purple stuff, for coughs. Brennan made a note. Anything else? Any drinks or vitamins that made you feel sleepy? The girls shook their heads. Rachel's heart hammered. This was a setup. Someone had planted a story, and now CPS was here to take her daughters. Officer Chun emerged from the bathroom holding a small bottle. Found this in the medicine cabinet. Rachel's stomach dropped. It was a bottle of children's cough syrup, grape flavored, the same brand millions of parents kept in their cabinets. That's cold medicine, Rachel said. It's over the counter. There's nothing wrong with. It's also half empty, Chun said. When did you last use it? I don't know, a month ago. Maybe more. One of the girls had a cough, and you've been giving it to them regularly, Brennan asked. No, only when they're sick. That's what it's for. Dawson pulled out a folded piece of paper. We received an anonymous tip that you've been using sedatives to keep your children quiet while you work. The tipster claims you were observed doing this at your previous workplace. Rachel's blood turned to ice. That's a lie. Who told you that? The tip was anonymous. Then it's bullshit. Rachel's voice rose. Someone is trying to set me up. I would never, Ms. Miller, Brennan said, her tone maddeningly calm. I understand you're upset, but we have to investigate every report. It's our job to protect children. I am protecting them. I'm their mother. Brennan glanced at the officers. We'd like to take the girls to the hospital just for a precautionary exam. A blood test to rule out any. No. Rachel stepped between Brennan and her daughters. You're not taking them anywhere, ma'am, Dawson said, his hand moving to his belt. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. You don't have a warrant. We have probable cause. Brennan's voice hardened. And if you refuse to cooperate, we'll assume you have something to hide. Rachel's vision blurred. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Mama, Grace's voice was trembling now. Rachel turned, saw her daughters huddled together, tears streaming down their faces, and something inside her broke. Fine, she whispered. But I'm coming with them, of course, Brennan said. The hospital was a nightmare. Fluorescent lights, sterile hallways, a nurse with a kind smile and cold hands who drew blood from 3 terrified little girls, while Rachel held them and whispered lies about everything being okay. The tests came back clean. No sedatives, no drugs, nothing. Brennan reviewed the results with a frown. Well, that's good. Told you, Rachel said, her voice hollow. We'll still need to file a report. And there will be a follow-up visit. Of course, there will. Brennan handed her a business card, if you have any concerns. Rachel crumpled the card and dropped it in the trash by the time they got home. It was past midnight. The girls were exhausted, their arms bruised from the blood draw. Rachel tucked them into their sleeping bags, kissed their foreheads, and sat on the floor between them until they finally fell asleep. Then she went into the bathroom, locked the door, and screamed into a towel until her throat was raw. When she came out, her phone was ringing, unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. Hello, Rachel Miller. The voice was female, unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Karen Lindsay. I'm a reporter with the Valley Chronicle. I'm doing a story on CPS cases in the county. And your name came across my desk. I was hoping we could talk. Rachel's grip tightened on the phone. How did you get my number? Public records. Look, I know you've had a rough night, but if someone's targeting you and it sounds like you might want to get ahead of the story. There is no story. There will be. Trust me, anonymous tips don't just happen. Someone wanted CPS at your door tonight. Don't you want to know who? Rachel closed her eyes. I can't talk right now. Think about it. Here's my number. Call me if you change your mind. The line went dead. Rachel stared at the phone, her mind spinning. Someone was coming for her, hard, and they weren't going to stop the next morning. Rachel dropped the girls off at Mrs. Chun's and drove straight to the public library. She logged onto a computer and opened her email. The reporter Karen Lindsay had sent a follow-up message with links to several articles she'd written. Investigative pieces, whistleblower interviews, corruption exposes. Rachel read them all. Then she pulled out her notebook, the one where she'd been documenting everything, and started typing. She wrote about Carolyn's fake accusations, the missing silverware, the anonymous CPS report, the planted cough syrup bottle that had somehow appeared in her bathroom, even though she distinctly remembered throwing the old one away weeks ago. She wrote about Amanda Price, the boys, the drawings of cups with droplets, the forum posts from parents who'd fired her, and she wrote about the pattern, the escalation, the way every attack had been designed to isolate her, discredit her, destroy her credibility before she could sound the alarm about what was happening in that house. When she finished, she sat back and read it over. It sounded insane, paranoid, like a conspiracy theory, but it was also true. Rachel attached the document to an email and sent it to Karen Lindsay. Then she closed the computer and walked outside into the cold morning air. She didn't know if the reporter would believe her. Didn't know if anyone would, but she'd put it out there, and that was something. She was halfway to her car when her phone rang again. This time, the name on the screen made her stop cold. James Whitaker, she answered. Hello, Miss Miller. His voice was tight, strained. I need to see you. Tonight it's about the boys. Rachel's pulse spiked. What happened? Not over the phone. Can you come to the house? "8 o'clock, use the side entrance. Amanda will be out, Mr. Whitaker, please." The word cracked. I think you were right. The line went dead. Rachel stood in the parking lot. Phone clutched in her hand, her breath fogging in the cold. "I think you were right." She didn't know what he meant, didn't know what he'd figured out, but she knew one thing. Tonight, the truth was going to come out. And God help whoever tried to stop it. Rachel arrived at the Whitaker estate at exactly 8 o'clock. The house was dark, except for a single light in the kitchen. She parked down the street, grabbed her phone and the folder of evidence she'd been compiling, and walked to the side entrance. James was waiting. He looked worse than she'd ever seen him. Hair disheveled, tie gone, shirt wrinkled. His eyes were red-rimmed. Like he'd been crying or hadn't slept in days, maybe both. "Thank you for coming," he said, his voice hoarse. "What's going on?" He gestured for her to follow him inside. They walked through the kitchen, spotless. As always, and into a small office Rachel hadn't seen before. James closed the door and locked it. "I need you to tell me the truth," he said, turning to face her. "Do you think Amanda is hurting my sons?" Rachel's heart stopped. "Yes." James flinched like she'd slapped him. "How long have you suspected?" "Since the first time I saw them. They were too quiet, too empty, and then I saw the drawings. The cups with the droplets. The boys told me Amanda gives them vitamins every night that make them sleepy." "Jesus." James ran a hand through his hair. Pacing, "I thought I was losing my mind. I thought grief was making me paranoid. But tonight," his voice broke. "Tonight I saw her. Saw her do what? I came home early. She wasn't expecting me. I heard her in the boys' room and I stood outside the door. She was adding something to their drinks, drops from a small bottle, and when Liam asked what it was, she told him it was medicine to help him stay calm." James's hands were shaking. He's 8 years old. He shouldn't need medicine to stay calm. Rachel's stomach twisted. "Did you confront her?" "No, He looked away, shame flooding his face. "I didn't know what to say. What if I was wrong? What if it really was just vitamins? And I was the one being crazy. You're not crazy. Then why didn't I see it sooner?" His voice cracked. "I let her into my home. I trusted her with my children. And all this time, a crash from upstairs cut him off. Then, a child's scream." James bolted for the door. Rachel was right behind him. They took the stairs 2 at a time. The screaming was coming from the boys' bedroom. James threw the door open. The room was chaos. Ethan was on the floor, convulsing. Noah was crying, trying to shake his brother awake, and Liam, tiny, pale Liam, was standing in front of Amanda, fists clenched, yelling, "You made him sick. You made him sick, and you said it was vitamins. But it's not." Amanda's face was a mask of cold fury. "Liam, calm down. Your brother is fine. He's just having a reaction. You're lying." Liam's voice broke. "You're always lying." James crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees beside Ethan. The boy's eyes were rolled back, his body jerking. Foam flecked the corners of his mouth. "Call 911, James shouted. Rachel already had her phone out. Amanda stepped forward, her voice smooth. "Mr. Whitaker, there's no need to panic. Ethan sometimes has these episodes. It's stress-related. I'll get his medication." "Don't you fucking touch him," James snarled. Amanda froze. "What did you give them?" James demanded, his voice shaking. "What was in those drinks? Supplements? Vitamins?" "Nothing harmful." "Bullshit," Liam screamed. He grabbed one of the cups from the nightstand and hurled it at Amanda. It shattered against the wall. "She puts the bad water in them. The sad water." Rachel's hands trembled as she spoke to the 911 operator. "We need an ambulance. A child is having a seizure. He's 8 years old. We think he's been poisoned." Amanda's mask cracked. "Poisoned? That's absurd." "I would never." "Get out," James said, his voice deadly quiet. "Get out of this house right now, or I swear to God the sound of sirens cut through the night." Amanda's face went pale. She looked at James, then at Rachel, then at the 2 little boys clinging to each other in the corner. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, her voice tight. "I've done nothing wrong. I've only ever tried to help out." "Now," Amanda grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. But before she left, she turned back, her expression venomous. "You'll regret this, both of you." Then she was gone. The paramedics arrived 4 minutes later. They stabilized Ethan, loaded him onto a stretcher, and rushed him to the hospital. James rode in the ambulance. Rachel followed in her car with Noah and Liam, who refused to let go of her hands. At the hospital, doctors ran tests, blood work, toxicology screens, brain scans. It took 3 hours. When the doctor finally emerged, his face was grim. "Mr. Whitaker, your son is stable, but we found elevated levels of diphenhydramine in his system. James frowned. What's that? It's an antihistamine, Benadryl. In small doses, it's harmless. But Ethan's levels suggest he's been taking it regularly for weeks, maybe months. I never gave him Benadryl. Someone did. And in doses high enough to cause sedation, cognitive impairment, and in tonight's case, a seizure. James's face drained of color. Can you test the other two? Already did. Same results. All three boys have elevated levels. Rachel felt the floor tilt beneath her. There's more, the doctor said quietly. We found evidence of long-term use. Their liver function is slightly impaired, nothing permanent. But it indicates prolonged exposure. James sank into a chair, his head in his hands. I need to ask, the doctor said carefully. Who's been administering their medication? Their nanny. Amanda Price, the doctor nodded slowly. I'm required to report this to the police. Do it. The police arrived an hour later. James gave a statement. Rachel gave hers. The boys, exhausted, frightened, were examined by a pediatric specialist who documented everything. And then, just as the sun was starting to rise, Officer Dawson walked into the waiting room, the same officer who'd come to Rachel's apartment 2 nights ago. He looked at Rachel, then at James, then at the stack of medical reports in his hands. Ms. Miller, he said slowly, I owe you an apology. Rachel blinked. What? The CPS report? The anonymous tip. It came from an email account registered to Amanda Price. Rachel's breath caught. Dawson continued. We've been going through her records. She's done this before, multiple families. She gets hired, gains their trust, and then systematically isolates the parents from their children. Usually targets widows or widowers, people who are vulnerable. Why? James's voice was hollow. Control. Money. Sometimes she convinces the parents to put her in their will. Sometimes she just likes the power. Dawson shook his head. We've got arrest warrants out for her now. She won't get far. Rachel felt her knees buckle. She sat down hard in a plastic chair. She tried to destroy me, she whispered. She tried, Dawson said. She failed. 3 hours later, they caught Amanda at the airport. She'd bought a one-way ticket to Vancouver under a fake name. Cops found her at the gate with a bag full of cash, forged documents, and 3 small bottles of liquid diphenhydramine. She didn't go quietly. She screamed about false accusations and misunderstandings. She claimed James was unstable, that Rachel was a gold digger, that the boys were lying. No one believed her. By the time Rachel got back to the Whitaker estate, it was almost noon. James had brought the boys home from the hospital with strict instructions. Rest, hydration, and absolutely no medications except what the doctors prescribed. Ethan was asleep in his bed, 4 still taped to his arm. Noah and Liam were sitting in the playroom. Coloring quietly, James found Rachel in the kitchen, staring at the empty shelf where Amanda's bottles used to be. Thank you, he said quietly. Rachel shook her head. I didn't do anything. You saw what I couldn't. You asked questions I was too afraid to ask. You, his voice broke. You saved them. They saved themselves, Rachel said, thinking of Liam's scream, of the cup shattering against the wall. They were braver than any of us. James wiped his eyes. Stay, please, just for today. He swallowed hard. I don't want them to wake up alone. Rachel nodded. She stayed. And when Liam woke up an hour later and asked for the spaceship lady, Rachel sat on the floor and built rocket ships out of pin caps until all 3 boys were laughing. Real laughter, the kind that shakes your whole body and makes your cheeks hurt. James stood in the doorway, watching, and for the first time in 8 months, he felt like maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. The interrogation room at the county police station smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. Amanda Price sat with her hands folded on the metal table, her posture perfect, her expression unreadable. She'd waived her right to an attorney, a decision that surprised everyone except Detective Maria Santos, who'd seen this type before. Narcissists always thought they could talk their way out. Ms. Price, Santos said, sliding a folder across the table. We've been going through your employment history. Want to tell me about the Hendersons? Amanda's eye twitched. I don't know what you mean. Portland, 2019. You worked for Patricia Henderson for 8 months after her husband died. She had 2 daughters. Ages 6 and 9, you were fired after Mrs. Henderson found Ambien dissolved in their juice boxes. That was a misunderstanding, and the Caldwells. Denver, 2020, widower with twin boys. You convinced him you were indispensable, isolated him from his family, and started forging checks from his business account. Amanda's jaw tightened. I was never charged because he didn't want to put his kids through a trial, but we've got the bank records now. Santos leaned forward. You've been doing this for years, targeting grieving families, drugging children to make them dependent on you, and when parents started asking questions, you destroyed them. I helped those families. You poisoned 3 8-year-old boys. Santos's voice turned to steel. Ethan Whitaker had a seizure because of you. He could have died. He was overstimulated. I gave him something to calm down. You gave him enough Benadryl to sedate a grown man for months. Do you understand what that does to a developing brain? Amanda said nothing. Santos opened another folder. Let's talk about Rachel Miller, who, don't play dumb. The woman you tried to frame. You filed a false CPS report. You planted evidence in her apartment. You even convinced her former employer to fire her on fake theft charges. Santos slid a printed email across the table. This is from your personal account. You sent it to Carolyn Frost 3 weeks ago. Subject line, get rid of her. Amanda stared at the email. You were afraid, Santos continued. Rachel saw what you were doing to those boys. She asked questions, so you tried to destroy her credibility before she could expose you. She was a threat to the children's stability. She was a threat to your control. Santos leaned back. Here's what I think happened. You got hired right after Catherine Whitaker died. James was a mess. The boys were traumatized, easy targets. You positioned yourself as the solution calm, organized, indispensable, and then you started drugging the kids to keep them quiet, made James think it was grief. Made everyone think you were the only one holding that family together. Amanda's hands clenched, but then Rachel showed up and the boys laughed for the first time in months. They acted like kids and you panicked. Because if James realized his sons didn't need drugs, they needed connection, you'd lose everything. You don't know what you're talking about. We pulled your financials, Santos said. You've been siphoning money from James Whitaker's accounts for 6 months. Small amounts, nothing he'd notice right away, but it adds up to just over $60,000. Amanda's face went white, and we found drafts of a revised will on your laptop, one that named you as guardian of the children in the event of James Whitaker's death. Santos's voice dropped. Were you planning to kill him? Amanda, no. Then what were you planning? Amanda's mask finally cracked. Her voice turned shrill. I was helping them. That house was chaos. Those boys were falling apart. James was useless. I gave them structure. I gave them stability. You gave them poison. They needed to sleep. They needed to calm down. Grief isn't something you can just talk through. Children need order. They needed their father, Santos said quietly. They needed to be allowed to feel, to grieve, to heal. You took that from them. Amanda's breathing quickened. I did everything right. Everything by the book. I followed every protocol. You drugged children. You falsified medical records. You committed fraud, assault, and attempted kidnapping. Santos stood. You're going to prison, Amanda, for a very long time. Amanda opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Closed it for the first time since the arrest. She had nothing to say back at the Whitaker estate. Rachel sat in the kitchen with James and a laptop open between them. Are you sure you want to see this? James asked. Rachel nodded. He pressed play. The footage was from the nanny cam James had secretly installed 3 days ago after Rachel's warning. After his suspicions had finally solidified into certainty, it was angled to capture the boys' bedroom from the corner shelf, hidden behind a picture frame. The timestamp read 8:47 p.m. Amanda entered the room carrying a tray with 3 small cups. The boys were already in their pajamas, sitting on their beds. Time for your vitamins, gentlemen, Amanda said, her voice saccharine. She handed each boy a cup. Ethan drank his without protest. So did Noah, but Liam hesitated. Miss Amanda, my tummy hurts. Can I skip tonight? Absolutely not. Amanda's smile didn't reach her eyes. You know the rules. You have to stay healthy. But it makes me so sleepy. That's how you know it's working. Amanda's voice hardened. Drink. Now. Liam's lip trembled, but he obeyed within 10 minutes. All 3 boys were glassy-eyed and listless. Ethan lay down without being told. Noah's head drooped. Liam blinked slowly. Fighting to keep his eyes open, Amanda stood over them, satisfaction flickering across her face. Good boys, she murmured. So much easier when you cooperate. She collected the cups and left. James paused the video, his hands shaking. I watched my sons turn into ghosts. And I told myself it was grief. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed his hand. You didn't know. I should have. She's a professional manipulator. She's done this to other families. You're not the first person she fooled. And if we hadn't stopped her, you wouldn't have been the last. James looked at her, his eyes red. How did you know? How did you see it when I couldn't? Rachel thought about the restaurant, about her daughters crying on cardboard, about what it felt like to be invisible. "I know what it looks like when someone's being crushed," she said quietly. "And I know what it looks like when someone's doing the crushing." The district attorney's office moved fast. Within 72 hours, they'd built a case that could have put Amanda away for 20 years. Assault on minors, fraud, forgery, false reporting, the list went on. But the most damning evidence came from Amanda's own records. Detective Santos found a journal in Amanda's apartment, pages and pages of meticulous notes about the families she'd worked for, strategies for gaining trust, techniques for isolating parents, dosage schedules for the children. She'd written about James. Weak, guilty, easy to control. Will believe anything if it means he doesn't have to face his own inadequacy as a father. She'd written about Rachel, threat level, high, poor, desperate, observant, needs to be neutralized before she contaminates the household. And she'd written about the boys. Progress, excellent. Ethan, fully compliant. Noah showing signs of dependence. Liam still resistant, but manageable with increased dosage. When James read those words, he'd locked himself in his office for an hour. Rachel found him afterward, sitting in the dark. Staring at nothing. "She thought I was weak," he said. "She was wrong, was she?" James's voice cracked. "I let her do this. I handed her my children and walked away. You were grieving. You were trying to survive. That's not weakness. It sure as hell wasn't strength." Rachel sat down beside him. "You know what takes strength. Admitting you were wrong. Asking for help, standing up and fighting, even when you're terrified." She met his eyes. "You did that. You're doing it now. That's not weakness. James, that's courage." James's throat worked. "I don't feel courageous. You don't have to feel it. You just have to keep going." They sat in silence for a long moment. Then James said, "What happens now?" Rachel said, "We make sure she never does this to anyone else." The trial was set for 6 weeks out. Amanda pled not guilty, claiming she was a scapegoat for James's parental failures. Her attorney painted her as a dedicated caregiver who'd been unfairly vilified. It didn't work. The jury saw the footage, read the journal, heard testimony from the Hendersons and the Caldwells and 3 other families, who came forward once Amanda's arrest made the news. They saw the medical records showing the boy's liver damage. They saw Liam's drawing of the cups with droplets. And they heard Ethan Paley, quiet, brave Ethan, testify in a closed session that the sad water had made him feel like he was disappearing. The verdict came back in 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Amanda Price was sentenced to 18 years in state prison. She showed no remorse. The day Amanda's sentence was announced, Rachel got 3 phone calls. The first was from Detective Santos. "It's over. She won't hurt anyone else." The second was from Karen Lindsay, the reporter. "Your story goes live tomorrow. Front page, are you okay with that?" The third was from James. "Can you come over? The boys want to see you." Rachel stood in her tiny apartment, the same cramped space with peeling linoleum and secondhand furniture, and realized she was crying. Not from sadness, from relief so overwhelming it felt like drowning in reverse. It was over. She called Mrs. Chun, asked her to watch the girls for a few hours, and drove to the Whitaker estate. The house looked different. James had hired a crew to repaint the boys' bedroom soft blues instead of sterile white. The playroom had been reorganized, toys pulled down from shelves and scattered across the floor in a glorious mess. There was noise, music playing from a speaker, laughter echoing down the hallway. Life. James met her at the door. He looked different too, less haunted. The dark circles under his eyes had faded. He was wearing jeans and an old t-shirt instead of a suit. "Hey," he said, smiling. "Come in." The boys ambushed her in the entryway. Rachel. Liam crashed into her legs, wrapping his arms around her waist. Ethan and Noah were right behind him, grinning. "We made you something," Noah said, tugging her toward the kitchen. On the counter sat a lumpy, frosting-covered disaster that might have once been a cake. "We tried to make it look like a spaceship," Ethan explained. "But it kinda looks like a blob." "It's perfect," Rachel said, her throat tight. "Dad helped," Liam added. "But he's bad at decorating," James laughed. "Thanks, buddy." Really feeling the love, they cut the cake chocolate with far too much frosting and ate it at the kitchen table. The boys talked over each other, telling Rachel about their new therapist who was nice and didn't make them sit still in their new school smaller classes, better recess, and the puppy James had promised they could get next month. Rachel watched them, marveling at the transformation. These were not the same hollow-eyed, silent children she'd met 2 months ago. These were loud, messy, whole kids. "Are you staying for dinner?" Liam asked, his mouth full of cake. Rachel glanced at James. Please stay, he said quietly, so she did. Dinner was chaotic. The boys argued about who got to set the table. Someone spilled juice. Ethan told a joke that made no sense, but they all laughed anyway after the dishes were cleared. James sent the boys upstairs to get ready for bed. I need to talk to you, he said. Rachel's stomach tightened. Okay, they moved to the living room, other space that had been transformed. The cold, minimalist furniture was gone, replaced by a worn couch and blankets and books stacked haphazardly on the coffee table. James sat down, running a hand through his hair. The trial's over. Amanda's going to prison. The boys are getting better, and I realized. He paused. I realized I never actually thanked you. You don't need to. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. You saved my sons, Rachel. You saw what was happening when I was too blind to see it. You risked everything to protect them, and then you stood by us through the investigation. The trial, all of it, I don't know how to, his voice cracked, I don't know how to repay that. Rachel shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I owe you everything, James. I want to hire you. The words came out in a rush, not as staff, as an event coordinator for Whitaker Industries. Full-time salary, benefits, the works. We've got corporate events year-round, and you're better at managing people than anyone I've ever met. Rachel stared at him. You're offering me a job, a real one, $45,000 a year to start. Health insurance for you and the girls, paid time off. And he hesitated. There's an on-site childcare program at the main office. I've been meaning to expand it anyway. Your girls would have a spot, free of charge. Rachel's breath caught James. It's not charity, he said quickly. You're qualified. You've been managing chaos for years, restaurants. Customers, 3 kids on your own. That's exactly the skill set we need. I'm not offering this because I feel sorry for you. I'm offering it because you're good at what you do. Rachel's eyes stung. I don't know what to say. Say yes. She looked at him. This man who'd been a stranger to months ago and was now offering her a lifeline she'd never thought she'd get. Yes, she whispered. James's shoulders sagged with relief. Good. That's good. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Rachel said, What about Carolyn? James's expression darkened. She's been fired. The restaurant ownership found out she'd been falsifying employee records and skimming from the till. She's facing charges. Good. The new manager reached out to some of the staff Carolyn had screwed over. Miguel's getting back pay, and they're implementing new policies protection for workers with kids. Transparent scheduling, all of it. Rachel exhaled slowly. It's really over. Yeah, James smiled. It's over. 2 weeks later, Rachel started her new job. The Whitaker Industries office was sleek and modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a cafeteria that served actual food instead of vending machine snacks. Rachel's office was small, but hers, desk, computer, a window overlooking the courtyard. The on-site childcare center was bright and clean, staffed by people with actual certifications. Chloe, Avery, and Grace loved it immediately. They had art projects and story time and playground equipment that didn't look like it would give you tetanus. Rachel's first event was a product launch for a new software platform. She coordinated vendors, managed the guest list, and handled a crisis when the caterer showed up an hour late. She did it without breaking a sweat. James watched from the back of the room, smiling. She's a natural, his assistant murmured. I know, that weekend. James invited Rachel and the girls over for a barbecue. It was the first time the two families had really spent time together outside of crisis mode. The kids ran around the backyard, 6 of them now. Instead of 3 and 3, playing tag and shrieking with laughter, James manned the grill, occasionally glancing over at Rachel, who was sitting on the porch steps with a glass of lemonade. You're staring, she said without looking up. He laughed. Guilty. Why? He walked over and sat down beside her. Because I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for something to go wrong, but it hasn't. Rachel looked at him. Maybe nothing's going to go wrong. Maybe, he smiled. That'd be nice. They watched the kids play. Liam was teaching Grace how to do a cartwheel. Ethan and Chloe were building something elaborate out of sticks. Noah and Avery were debating the aerodynamics of paper airplanes. They're happy, Rachel said softly. Yeah, they are. James hesitated, then said, I've been thinking about the future, about what comes next, and I don't want to do it alone. He turned to face her. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a few months, but you and your girls, you're the reason my sons are okay. You're the reason I'm okay, and I don't want that to end just because the crisis is over. Rachel's heart hammered. What are you saying? I'm saying stay, not just for work, not just for the kids, for, he gestured helplessly, for this, for us, whatever that looks like. Rachel stared at him. James, you don't have to answer now. I needed you to know. She reached out and took his hand. I'm not going anywhere, she said quietly. James's eyes shone. He squeezed her hand, and for a long moment, They just sat there, two people who'd been broken in different ways, holding on to something fragile and new and real. From the yard, Liam's voice rang out, "Dad, Rachel, come play with us." James stood and pulled Rachel to her feet. "Come on," he said, grinning. "Can't disappoint the kids." And as they walked into the sunlight, surrounded by laughter and chaos, and the sound of 6 children who finally felt safe, realized something. This was what home felt like. 6 months later, Miller's family restaurant looked different under new management. The flickering lights had been replaced. The walls were painted a warm yellow instead of institutional beige. And there, near the front window, was a table with 6 colorful plastic cups, bright red, blue, green, orange, purple, yellow, and a small plaque that read, "Reserved for families who need a safe place to land." Rachel stood in the doorway, taking it in. Miguel spotted her first. "Rachel, hey." He crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. "Didn't think you'd come." "Wouldn't miss it," Rachel said. Smiling, "The place looks amazing. New owner actually cares." Miguel gestured around. "Better pay. Benefits? And get this, if you've got kids and daycare falls through, you can bring them to work. They've got a corner set up with books and games. No one gets fired for being a parent." Rachel's throat tightened. That's really good." Miguel, yeah," he grinned. "It is. How are the girls thriving?" "Chloe wants to be a scientist. Avery's convinced she's going to be a YouTube star. And Grace just learned to ride a bike. And you, still working for the tech guy." Rachel laughed. "Yeah, still working for the tech guy." Miguel's eyes twinkled. "Just working for him." Rachel's cheeks flushed. "Mind your business." "That's a yes." Miguel's grin widened. "Good for you, Ratch. You deserve it." A bell chimed as the door opened. James walked in with the boys, all 4 of them wearing matching baseball caps from a game they'd gone to that morning. The boys spotted Rachel and rushed over. "Rachel, did you see the new menu?" Ethan waved a laminated card. "They have breakfast all day now, and milkshakes with 10 different flavors," Noah added. Liam tugged on her sleeve. "Can we sit at the special table, please?" Rachel glanced at James, who shrugged with a smile. "Why not?" They claimed the table by the window, the one with the 6 cups. The kids scrambled into seats. Chattering about toppings and syrup choices, Rachel slid in beside Grace, and James sat across from her, his knee brushing hers under the table. The waitress, a college student with bright pink hair, came over with menus and a genuine smile. "Welcome to Miller's. What can I get you folks?" Orders were placed. Pancakes with whipped cream, French toast with strawberries, scrambled eggs with cheese, orange juice all around. "No sad water here," Liam declared, holding up his cup of juice. The other kids giggled. James caught Rachel's eye and mouthed, "What's sad water?" Rachel shook her head, smiling. "Tell you later." When the food arrived, the table erupted into controlled chaos. Syrup was spilled. Napkins were deployed. Ethan stole a strawberry from Noah's plate and got swatted with a fork. Grace insisted on sharing her bacon with everyone. It was loud and messy and perfect. Rachel watched them, these 6 kids who'd been strangers a year ago, and were now bickering like siblings, and felt something settle in her chest. This was family, not because of blood, because of choice. After breakfast, they walked to the park. The kids raced ahead, shouting about who'd get to the swings first. Rachel and James followed at a slower pace, hands brushing but not quite holding. "You okay?" James asked. "Yeah. Just thinking about how different everything is." Rachel looked at him. 6 months ago, I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor and wondering how I was going to feed my kids. Now, I've got a job I love, health insurance, and my daughters have friends. It doesn't feel real. It's real." James's voice was soft. "You earned it. We earned it," Rachel corrected. "You and me." Together, James stopped walking. "Rachel, I know what you're going to say." "Do you?" She turned to face him. "You're going to say something ridiculously heartfelt that's going to make me cry in public." He laughed. "Was I that obvious?" "Yes, okay, then I'll skip the speech." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "I got you something." Rachel frowned. "It's not my birthday, I know. Just open it." She tore open the envelope. Inside was a single piece of paper. A deed. Her eyes widened. "James." "What? It's the apartment building you're living in?" he said quickly. "I bought it 3 weeks ago. The landlord was selling. And I didn't want some corporations swooping in and jacking up rents. So I bought it." Rachel stared at him. "You bought an entire building, and I'm signing it over to a nonprofit. They're going to turn it into affordable housing for single parents. Rent-controlled, childcare assistance, job placement programs." He smiled. "I want you on the board if you're interested." Rachel's vision blurred. Why? Because you taught me something. James stepped closer. You taught me that strength isn't about having money or power. It's about showing up, fighting for the people you love, refusing to let the world break you. His voice dropped. I was broken, Rachel. So were my boys. And you didn't fix us because you had resources. You fixed us because you gave a damn. A tear slid down Rachel's cheek. James, I love you. The words came out in a rush. I know it's too soon. I know we're still figuring this out, but I love you, and I love your girls. And I want us to be a family, a real one, Rachel's breath caught. From the playground, Liam's voice rang out. Dad, Rachel, come push us on the swings. Rachel laughed through her tears. She reached up, cupped James's face in her hands, and kissed him. It wasn't their first kiss. That had happened 2 weeks ago. Late at night in his kitchen, after the kids were asleep, but this one felt different, like a promise. When they pulled apart, James was grinning. Is that a yes? That's a yes. 3 months later. Rachel moved into the Whitaker estate, not as staff, not as a guest, as family. The girls got their own rooms, painted in colors they picked themselves. Chloe chose purple, Avery chose teal. Grace chose yellow with glow. In the dark stars on the ceiling, the boys helped them move in, carrying boxes and arguing about where the furniture should go. Ethan appointed himself chief of decorations. Noah made labels for all the drawers. Liam drew welcome signs and taped them to every door. That first night, they ordered pizza and ate it on the floor of the living room because the dining table wasn't big enough for 8 people yet. We need a bigger table, James said, looking around. We need a lot of things, Rachel agreed, but we'll figure it out. And they did. A year later, the headline in the Valley Chronicle read, Local nonprofit expands affordable housing initiative, former victim becomes advocate. Rachel was quoted extensively. She talked about the importance of childcare, about protecting vulnerable families, about creating systems that helped instead of punished. She didn't mention Amanda by name. She didn't need to. The article ended with a photo, Rachel and James standing in front of the apartment building, surrounded by 6 kids holding a banner that read, Everyone deserves a safe place to land, on a quiet Sunday morning. Rachel found herself back at the restaurant. The place was busy, families filling the booths, kids coloring on placemats, the smell of coffee and bacon thick in the air. She sat at the table by the window, the one with the 6 cups. James slid into the seat across from her, holding 2 coffees. The kids are with your neighbor. We've got 2 hours apiece. 2 whole hours, Rachel said. Grinning, what should we do? I don't know, talk. Like adults, wild, they sat in comfortable silence, watching the world go by outside the window. Then James said, You know what I was thinking? What about Amanda's trial? The prosecutor said she'd done this to at least 5 other families. Maybe more. Rachel's smile faded. Yeah, what if there are others? Caregivers, like her, still out there, still hurting kids. Rachel looked at him. What are you suggesting? I don't know. A foundation, maybe. Something that helps families vet caregivers, provides resources, funds, background checks. He hesitated. I know it won't fix everything, but maybe it'll stop someone else from going through what we did. Rachel reached across the table and took his hand. Let's do it. Yeah, on the chalkboard behind the counter. Someone had written in looping handwriting, Here, no one drinks sad water. Rachel smiled. The door opened, letting in a gust of cold air and the sound of laughter. 6 kids tumbled inside, bright-eyed, loud, safe. Ethan waved. Mom, Dad, we finished early. Rachel and James exchanged a look. Mom, Dad, Rachel's heart swelled. Come on, she said, standing. Let's get these hooligans some pancakes. And as the kids piled into the booth, arguing over who got the seat by the window, Rachel looked around the table at these people who'd become her world and thought, this was what it felt like when justice turned into shelter, when survival turned into living, when broken pieces found a way to fit together and make something whole. The wind rattled the windows. Someone knocked over a glass of juice. Liam told a joke that made no sense, and Rachel Miller's single mother, survivor, fighter laughed until her cheeks hurt. Because here, in this bright, noisy, chaotic corner of the world, no one drank sad water anymore.